But, you know, the thing about globalization, I never thought that globalization was here to stay in that form. History doesn't tell us that. History tells us that globalization, there are periods of globalization and periods when it begins to unravel. I mean, the classic example that people normally quote is the period, you know, between 1870 and 1914, when there was a rapid process of globalization. Globalization meant then basically just the Western economies, Japan a little bit, but basically the Western economies. And then 1914, war, the whole thing unraveled. And it didn't start being rebuilt until after the Second World War. So there was a long interlude, and a devastating interlude, because that just didn't stop the economic connections, it stopped everything. You know, this was a war that had huge numbers of deaths in around the world, in Asia, in Europe, and so on. So I'm not, you know, I think we are going definitely to be in a period when globalization is unraveling a bit. We don't know how much. It doesn't mean the end of globalization. It just means the end of this era of globalization, which has been based, for example, centrally on the relationship between the United States and China, not least economically. But it's not the end of globalization. It'll continue. For example, China's certainly going to continue its own path of globalization. Belt and Road and all the other examples of that will ensure that. Anyway, China's a much bigger trading nation than the United States is, with a much larger number of trading partners. So I think that will continue. But that will obviously be different from it being a global phenomenon in the way that it has been.